I hope we didn't chase away folk
Why would we have chased away folk?
with the last episode.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Testing out the music. It's definitely dun dun dun. It says I'm streaming, but I don't see streaming. Let me
I see it.
refresh. Let me refresh the page. Oh yeah, there I am. I see me. Dun dun dun. Oh, now I need to mute myself. Oh, I'm going to unmute myself.
I see it.
Let me refresh the page. I need you to talk. Oh yeah, there I am.
You need me to talk? All right, I'm talking.
Okay,
I'm
now
talking all the way downtown.
Oh, now I need to mute myself. Oh, I'm going to unmute myself.
I see it.
Let me refresh the page. I need you to talk. Oh yeah, there I am.
You need me to talk? All right, I'm talking.
Okay,
I'm talking all the way.
That's why I was doing that. I was testing our audio levels. And you're about twice as loud as I am because I am very low for some reason. So I need to do a microphone auxiliary boost.
Ooh, auxiliary.
And apply it. And I am now very loud. And my chair is very sinky. Okay. I don't see anybody. Though we should at least be seeing you. So, hello.
I see me.
Test. All right, hey, how is everyone? We are getting started here. We're going to get ready to start episode 114, Hell of a Gen Con. We are not officially starting right now. When we officially start, you will see the splash screen and hear the awesome music that we have. I'm also going to need to turn off my air conditioner. Because
oh, God, are you sure? That never is a good idea.
It is never a fun idea, but unfortunately, while Google has excellent noise correction, Twitch does not. There is I've been told there is noise correction that can be installed, but it is a manual process that has to be installed with plugins and things. Okay. Okay, so I see that we do have at least some peoples.
Hi, peoples.
In the numbers of exactly threes.
I see threes.
Threes peoples. Alrighty. Okay. Okay, audio's good, video's good. Anybody seeing anything breaking up? I guess the one lone peoples who might not even be logged in and able to chat.
Yeah, if anyone's watching us live, feel free to join in the chat. Again, this is just the pre-show. We're just working out our technical difficulties.
Yep.
As anyone who was at last episode knows, technical difficulties happen.
Yeah, I don't like the technicals or the difficulties. Oh, have you posted that we're going live now?
I gave the live in 5. I guess I can give the going live now.
Okay. Let's see here. Oh, remember to post it outside the event too.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And then we'll post it on. Okay. So let's get some peoples. And oh goodness, this is not going to work with no air conditioner. I'll have to put the air conditioner on low. Simply because, oh my gosh, it turned into an oven instantaneously in here. Alrighty. Well, I guess I just want to wait about 5 minutes to give the people's times to file in that saw that post, but then we're going to hit the actual go splash screen. In the meantime, I just want to remind everybody who happens to be watching live that this is definitely live, and you're able to ask us questions by sending in comments, and we will answer those questions to the best of our abilities. Today, the episode is us geeking out about Gen Con, and lots of the news and the discussions of the talks and the stuff that has been announced there, including all the tentacles involved in that, which will be a surprising number of tentacles. Though more than 0 is always a surprising number. Unless you're doing a sea adventure, and then more than 8.
All right. I'll give you that.
Okay. Okay. I guess that's all the time we can afford. I'm going to go to splash screen. Right after I disable anything that can make noise.
Splash screen.
Splash. Extra splashy. Splash with a side of wet.
Ugh.
Okay. Okay, we are on splash screen now.
What does that mean?
That means don't talk. And we're back.
Welcome to No Direction, the Pathfinder News, Reviews, and Interviews podcast. I'm Ryan Costello.
And I'm Jefferson J. Thacker, also known as Param.
This is episode 114 of the No Direction podcast. And while it may be a little bit late, we are going to be talking about Gen Con. Param and I were both at Gen Con this year. I was working it. Param, you were working it in a different way. You were working it for the show, which I think our listeners need to be ever appreciative to you for that.
Well, it was fun, but I could not do it alone. We had the Gen Con press team. And the Gen Con press team was exceptionally awesome this year. We had 3 whole members of the press team this year. The first member was Monica Marlowe, our very own, who will be very interesting about how she will be a superstar, and that there will be talking about our other, well, how do you say it? Our other press teamer or press teamee?
Sure, more members of the team.
Well,
Teamster, sure.
I like it. Teamster was Chris Hall, roommate, and I wrangled into covering for me when I had to go do the RPG Live with Sirenscape and Hero Lab and James Jacobs, which was a cool thing, which hopefully we will see soon. The Dice Stormers and Sirenscape and Ben are doing the editing of that one, so that was editing I did not have to do, and I like not doing editing. And our final was Eric Brandon Ives. Brandon Ives was Eric, but Eric, you were great. You recorded several seminars for us, and you did it with enthusiasm, including one you were not very enthusiastic about at the last minute, so thank you, ever so appreciative for snagging that one for us. We had a last minute interview request that I had to bolt to, so he stepped up to the plate without any warning, so way to go, Eric.
Thank you, Eric. Yeah, we got over a dozen seminars recorded, and we are about halfway through them right now. So if you go to nodirectionpodcast.com, you'll see our Gen Con 2015 coverage. Actually, I'll probably make a super page for that probably after all of them have been posted, so that if anyone wants to go back and find them all, you just have to find that one page.
And while at Gen Con, let's talk about Gen Con, because that's what we're here to talk about. So in the general sense, how was your Gen Con this year, Ryan?
My Gen Con was crazy busy, but different from any other Gen Con that I've worked.
How was it different than last year?
Because last year I had made arrangements, because I've worked the last 2 Gen Cons, but last year's, actually I guess I've worked the last 3. 3 Gen Cons ago, it was purely like I am promoting something that I've worked for them as a freelancer on. Last year's, before I got hired at the company, I already made my plans to go to Gen Con with Tina and Matt and a whole bunch of people that I knew. I think Jeff was there, not you, Param. And so when they needed me to promote stuff at Gen Con for Blind Ferret, it was like, well, I've already got these plans. So they kind of let me split my time between the stuff I was already planning on doing and the stuff that they needed me to do. This year, though, I had no plans ahead of time, so I went into it purely as a Blind Ferret employee, and I worked the booth. I worked the booth for the entire time, except for late on Sunday when I had to cover a top secret project that I cannot reveal. Suffice to say, though, I needed to speak to a lot of people at Gen Con, and I did not have a lot of time to do it.
Oh, well, I know that feeling for different reasons this year. But you guys, you did do something cool this year. You designed a thing, and you were showing it off and selling a thing. Well, I guess you did that last year too. But
Yeah,
this
there's a
time
few
it was a
things.
completely different thing.
So last year we did the LFG Adventures, which is an RPG box set. It's completely compatible with Pathfinder.
Woohoo!
And this year, in support of that, we actually released 5 unpainted metal miniatures. So anyone that's a big fan of LFG, or if you're just looking for cool but different miniatures, we've got one of Richard, our Warlock, Kale and On, our Elven Archer, Benny, who is, we call her a half-breed, but if you're looking for a half-orc caster, Benny's actually a great miniature for that. There was a lot of buzz about that miniature because that's just an underrepresented combination of class and race among miniatures. And then the Peg Warmers are Aeon, who is one of the first bad guys of the comic, and Legion Soldiers. And the idea was that every wave we would have a couple new members of the group and a villain and an army builder. I don't know how many more. I don't think we're going to do any more army builders, and I don't know how many more villains we're going to do unless it's a villain that we know is much more popular. Because I'm a little bit worried we're going to be sitting on a lot of Legion stock this time next year.
Yeah, you never predict what's going to be the big sellers and such.
Oh, I have my plans. I'm gonna promote a contest where people will get an Aeon and it will be their canvas, and we're gonna ask them to make it as cool as they can, and the winner will get a whole bunch of Legion soldiers. So all in one shot, we're gonna get rid of the Aeons and the Legion soldiers that we're sitting on.
Well, at least you avoided the temptation to make the 5 miniatures 1 Kale and 4 Richards in various poses of killing orphans.
Right. And then the other thing we released was the new board game, which is the first board game I've designed, and luckily was super popular. That was Orphans and Ashes, the game of strategic orphan burning.
Okay.
It's a 2-player tile-laying game where you're playing either as Kale, who's running into an orphanage to save the orphans, or Richard, who's running in to a burning orphanage to get the orphans before the fire gets to them. Because, innocent souls is what fuels Richard's magic, so this is basically the equivalent of an oil spill for Richard. And a lot of people played it, and a lot of people really enjoyed it. Now, we had some production problems, so unfortunately it's not going to be available for full sale until probably December or possibly later, unfortunately, because the pawns that were supposed to be in the box were not completed in time, and so our manufacturer sent us a whole bunch of boxes with everything but the pawns. And luckily, MeepleSource came to our aid at the last minute and was able to supply us with enough generic meeples, just little wooden pawn people, in case you're not into board game terminology, so that we could sell about 100 copies of the game. And we sold them. We actually sold all 100 copies that we had meeples for, and then the 4 demo copies that we had. So at this point, I can't even play a meeple game, and we can't set that up at other conventions because we are completely sold out of the stock. Which, super encouraging for me, but that much more disappointing that we didn't have the proper version of the game for sale.
Right. Well, I definitely look forward to it. I mean, it sounded cool, and obviously people liked it if they sold out. And my Gen Con was mostly seminar running, interviewing, some more seminars that had nothing to do with Pathfinder that I kind of enjoyed, and some I didn't. And specials. Playing Pathfinder specials was fun this year. And I guess it's my usual Gen Con. I tried to do the shopping thing this year, but it was really interesting because this Gen Con was about 2 weeks early, and that totally threw everybody off.
Yep.
Like, everybody was thrown off. Like, stuff that could not be there because you plan your year in for Gen Con, but when Gen Con isn't when Gen Con should be, that means that stuff doesn't even make it to from China on time. And then you run into the issues, which is, why we're not currently geeking out about the first issue of Hell's Rebels in our hands, because they aren't in our hands, because, I just got my PDF, this morning. Much less, physical copies that we won't see for a week or two. And I don't even know how that works with Canada. Do you guys get them about the same time we do?
I believe so.
Okay.
Probably, if there's any delay, it's about a week delay. Remember, I'm not a subscriber to anything because shipping costs are quite high to
Yeah,
get the
it
stuff
was
to
just so
Canada.
silly because it's just more dirt. Artificial dirt, too.
And a lot of trees too. There's a lot of paperwork involved in getting it across a border.
Right, right. Um,
Yeah, it's not
no,
Paizo
no.
that's just
No, no,
charging us a
no,
whole
no.
bunch of extra money.
It is horrible trade agreements and borders and not cool stuff. Like, I mean, can't we get to Star Trek already, where we're all just one happy, peaceful, coexisting nation that all wears underwear, full body underwear all the time?
Can't wait.
Can't wait. Well, evidently we should wait because everybody who's ever starred in Star Trek says that was horribly uncomfortable and smelled horrible. But side note of also Gen Con.
Yes.
Because speaking of horribly uncomfortable and smelling horrible,
Aw.
the AC was out for the first day 0 in the morning of day 1. The air conditioning just did not work in even like the hotels or the convention center itself, and especially not you guys who were setting up booths in advance back there. I mean, when I saw like Adam come out or you come out and you were both like drenched, just completely nothing but sweat and like soaked t-shirts. It was not good, and of course it was also out where the line is for will call, so that made it for an aromatic experience. And people talk about confunk. People talk about confunk when the air conditioner is perfectly working. I can't even blame them for the confunk this time because just 5 minutes in that line and I was just wet all over. It was like easily 89 degrees in that line, no joke. And I imagine it was worse for you back there. And then we went back to the hotel room, same story. The hotel air conditioner was just not up for the task of Indiana heat.
Now, what I was told was that they just didn't turn off the air conditioning in the exhibit hall because all of the bay doors were open, and so the air conditioning would have just been sucked out anyway. But if you're telling me it wasn't working anywhere in the hotels, well, then I'm glad I wasn't suffering alone. But it was quite nasty.
It was
Within
not.
about 5 minutes of setting up, and I bragged about being super strong, and I've also complained about being super sweaty. These are my two traits as a human being. Yeah, so those things did not interact very well, and within 5 minutes, I was just a sweat bag, and it was gross. And for a terrible, okay, I'll to tell a dumb story. I woke up that morning at like 3 to catch my 6 a.m. plane, and I thought I had grabbed a T-shirt, but it was a long sleeve wool
Oh.
T-shirt, and nope, I caught it in time. And here was my brain, instead of saying like, well, I should just change this for a short sleeve T-shirt like a normal human being might. I was like, oh well, if I'm gonna wear a long sleeve shirt, I'll wear my nice spandexy one that breathes a lot better. So I changed to a different long sleeve shirt instead of the much more logical T-shirt that I should have been wearing. So within 5 minutes, I walked up to Will, who was also setting up the booth with me, my coworker Will. I walked up to him with an X-Acto knife and just told him, cut off my sleeves because I cannot, like, I am going to overheat if I don't do something about this right now.
Oh wow. So that, because like I don't remember this long sleeve breathable shirt. By the time I saw you, it was like an improvised tank top, and I mean like this looks like something you scavenged from a goblin at the 5th level of a dungeon. um,
To give you an idea of how bad it was, towards the end of it, I took a knee on the cement and I slipped.
I'm sorry. Oh, but that's not to say that Gen Con was bad this year.
No, it just started on a
It
gross
just started
note.
crazy weird. But it was exceptionally quiet. Like this was a very relaxed Gen Con, very low key for me. Because not only did Paizo not have all the stuff they wanted to show up, nobody did. Like very few people had the stuff, and I kept going in, and I kept hearing the same stuff from booth to booth of, yeah, we're gonna have it soon, but we couldn't get it here in time for Gen Con because it started early, was a line I heard again and again and again. Sometimes there were demo copies, sometimes there weren't. There was no huge, brand new big thing this year from any of the major players. The new Magic set launched, but that was just a new Magic set that happens every 3 months. So, every 3 months, so it wasn't a huge deal. Fantasy Flight, I can't think of anything huge they had. They were launching the the Force Sensitive Handbook, but they launched the beta of that last year, and I didn't see a beta for what comes after it this year, which is usually the big crazy thing. Upper Deck, nothing big there. The Firefly game, nothing big there. I mean, I don't mean to sound super down on it, but the most interesting theme that was getting the most attention was this tiny little game in the back of the hall that Wes kept promoting called Monster. Did you hear this or see this?
Monster? No, I saw Eric Mona was posting a game that he was playing. That
It's the same game.
It's called Monster.
Well, it has two titles. Monster is like the name of that game, and then like the series itself has a name that they were using. Kingdom Death.
Okay.
Is that the one?
I think Kingdom Death sounds about right.
Kingdom Death: Monster was the name of the game. It launched as Monster, a Kickstarter, a couple of years ago, I think, which made a lot of big news because people were like, "This looks incredibly violent and or sexist and or where are the clothings?" But it was like this tiny little booth back in Indie Alley, and if you don't know what Indie Alley is, it is this back far crevice of Narnia that they hide all of the like newbie startups and like I made this with my Etsy account type setups, like, you know, with like the people with no budget and no product or stuff that's obviously lower quality or newer or smaller. You can get in there if you're an indie and it's like a discounted rate for the booths. So like all the weird stuff is always back there. And I always love going back there because you see some cool stuff that's like, you know, like really, God, what am I thinking of here? Like a lot of the handmade stuff, a lot of like really niche, narrow stuff, a lot of innovative ideas to get at. I see first back there. It was the first time I saw Dungeonscape was back there the year it launched, which is a great little mapping software that you should check out if you haven't checked it out. It makes mapping like just click, 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 map. Not really cool looking maps, but like really old school looking maps that look like the blue maps in the back of old TSR books. But Monster was back there, which was really weird because the production quality of everything they did was like to the nines, okay? And this tiny little all black booth with crazy good production values, and it's like this small, and I'm gonna have to squeeze in sideways, and it's completely packed because word has gotten out that this is the only thing to see at Gen Con. So like they're just packed in there, and you have to squeeze in, and then like they have this display case that is everything in this game, and it's like you've seen my two shelves, right? Okay, these huge bookshelves. Double that, like the whole wall, and pack it completely full of plastic. Like not like this shelf was dense, packed with board tiles and more miniatures than I have seen in a long time. And oh my gosh, they were like, "Yeah, that's in the box. That's the box." And I'm like, "How?" It was just crazy, like this ridiculous amount of stuff in this one little box, and the most creepy weird stuff I've seen in a while. The premise, if you don't know, of Kingdom Death is that you're dead, this is hell, and the only stuff you get is the stuff you can make from the things you kill, which is why everybody's barely clothed barbarians fighting with really icky stuff, and the arts are like caves made out of human heads. It's kind of gross and creepy and weird and kind of neat. It's definitely a unique take on things, and that was the only hotness that I can remember.
Well, looking at the upcoming Gen Con dates, other than 2017, where it's going back to later August, it'll be the 17th to the 20th in 2017. Otherwise, we're looking at first week of August, or again, back in 2020, it's going to be July 30th again. So I know that there's been complaints from a lot of people that work at schools, and there is a big overlap of people that work at schools and people in the gaming community. And when you have it in late August, that's when people are going back to work who work at schools. Right. So you can't just take time off. It does become a weird conflict. So this might be to accommodate them, but it really threw off everyone's schedule this year.
Yeah, I hope by next year they can get this aligned right, and we can see a lot more of the ooh and ah. Of notable was that Wizards of the Coast complete no-show this year. Like, complete didn't even show up, which was super weird. They subcontracted all their live play stuff, and the Magic stuff I hear went great, and the D&D stuff I hear went horribly. There's posts up about that on Ian World involving refunds and compensation. So evidently that didn't go great. So I hope it does better. I hope Wizards shows up next year because I want to see the castle and the giant beholder and the life-size Drit statue. It was all geeky stuff. But at least the Magic went well. But again, that was handled by a different subcontracted group that made that happen. Other than that, Paizo was doing great in their hall. They got the full Sagamore this year, and that was massive. Did you get to play any?
I did not. I showed up. I bumped into you each time that I showed up and just kind of walked around, kind of took the whole thing in. But I probably could have gotten in one game, but for the most part, I just wanted to be a silent observer.
So how was it silently observing?
It was good. Like, the entire Sagamore was clearly packed with more people than ever before, but there was a lot of space in between the tables. There was a lot of space for moving around. So if this is the new size of Pathfinder Society, we've still got room. Like, this is kind of the maximum that Pathfinder Society can take up. So it's nice that of this giant space, there's still room to grow.
Right. The last year we had about 2/3 of the Sagamore, and the other third was closed off. And so this year we got the full Sagamore. And last year it was not enough. And this year there were times we didn't fill it. Like some of the morning sessions didn't make not huge numbers, but it looks like we've found the sweet spot of space. Now, according to the Paizo blogs and reports, this was a record year, even given that some tables didn't make. Evidently, there were enough more tables that there were more people than ever. And overall, Paizo was very happy with both how well their booth did and how well the playroom went. And also, the card game was really big this year. They had a huge amount of space and a really big support table that had super organized support table. Like you could just walk up and check out classes, and they had them all in these little color-coded books. And the support area was a lot good. And the kids area was about twice the size it was last year when I saw it. And they had... Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
They had little stand-ups, with their heads cut out of them, so that the kids could stand in front of the goblins or the halflings or the dwarves, all the really short things in Pathfinder. Yeah, and the coloring book. You know more about the coloring book than I do, right? Ryan?
Aha! I've got it right here. Our good buddy Lucas Servideo put this together. He contributed to it, and he was kind of like the project manager on it, but we've got a whole bunch of people who contributed to it. We've got the credits page there, and it's a variety of pages that you can color in and activities. We've got the iconic name search, and from what I can tell, a lot of people were super excited about this, which I'm happy to hear. This was something that was given away for free to kids, so it was it's not a collectible. It is a collectible, but it wasn't for sale. And it's something that he made sure that collectors didn't come and just claim up all the copies. This was an activity book for kids, and kids were getting their hands on it, which is great. It's something that's really supportive for kids. I know that Mike Brock was very supportive of this idea and getting this out to Pathfinder Society, because he's been one of the people that's been pushing to get younger people playing in Pathfinder Society. Now, I know you're saying the kids area was twice the size of last year, but a couple of years ago, the kids area was its own room near where the seminars were held, separate from the other Pathfinder Society gaming. This year, they actually brought it all in together, which I think if you're going to include a kids track, then put it in the same place. It makes sense to me.
Yep. So, yeah, and I think because that way you get people seeing the Pathfinder, and from both ends, the parents see that there is kids activities. The kids get to see that, oh gosh, this is what it could be. And they were doing not just the coloring book, but they were while they had supplies of it, they were giving full 7 sets to the kids that played sessions.
full 7 sets? What do you mean?
of dice.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, the kids played. They got the pencil, dice, character sheet, the works, which I thought was really cool. And that was neat. There was also for the character creation station was back from
Hero Lab.
Hero Lab, thank you. Sorry for all the confusion today. But yeah, Hero Lab was there with the character creation section, and it was huge. It was 16 computers in a square, 4x4x4x4, with like laser printers at the corners to spit them out, which was great. And this time they had it loaded in with, like, they had the full package loaded in this time. It wasn't just the beginner stuff. So you could make any character at all actually there while you were there. And there was almost always space. They weren't overpacked. And they did something weird with the pre-gens this year, which I'm not sure I like, but I kind of like, and I might steal, is that when you asked to play a pre-gen, which I had to do for every one of the specials this year because the people I wanted to play with were higher level than my character, so I had to play in the 5 to 7 groups when I wanted to play in the 3 to 5, or I wanted to play level 3. So I ended up playing a lot of pre-gens this year, and what they handed me this year was a big, giant book that went thump, and it had a ring in it, and it was every single pre-gen on a laminated cardstock, and you just like flipped through until you found the pre-gen you were looking for.
Okay, and then
you had to turn the book back in.
You pulled that page out.
No, the book stayed with you. Like, this is the pre-gens level 7. Thump.
Wow.
And you flipped to cleric, and you played with it, and then you turned the book back in when you were done with it. Usually, and I might do that because I keep, every time I do PFS on Saturdays here, I keep having to reprint all my pre-gens because invariably people have come and played pre-gens, and I usually just let them keep the paper copies as sort of an investment of hoping they come back. Like, here's something that's yours now, and you can level him up, or you can make a new character. But I might still do that when I have them, but maybe have a set of laminates so that, you know, if all else fails, here's a laminated thing I need back, so that here's the character. Because it's killing my ink. I have lots of ink. But it was cool. The specials this year were great. Sirenscape was on board with the full suite of sound effects. They did better this year than last year. Not last year was great, but sometimes it got over booming, and this year they really dialed that into like the sweet spot where the sound effects weren't drowning out the GMs, and it helped that we weren't elbow to elbow, shoulder to shoulder, and we were doing cool stuff.
I'm just going to answer Gaming Sean's question in the chat. Yeah, Gaming Sean, I don't know if you're still here, but this podcast is for Pathfinder. It's the Pathfinder role-playing game. It's a tabletop gaming podcast, and you are welcome to join us. I don't know what kind of gaming podcast you were looking for, but we are here for the next hour and a half, and feel free to ask any questions about Pathfinder you'd like.
Yep. And that's a good point to our chat. We take live questions from the audience all throughout the show. So if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to pipe up. We'll be geeking out all about Gen Con and Paizo's news after we get done geeking out about general Gen Con. And boy, was there some news.
Before we get to the news, I want to talk about the specials. You said that you played all 4 of them.
No,
so what were some of your...
2.
You played 2, okay.
I played 2.
What were your thoughts? Actually, first of all, which 2 did you play?
Okay, I played Siege of Serpents, which was the first special, and then I played the Sky Key Solution, which was the second special, and I loved both of them. Siege of Serpents is the one that we were going to be geeking out about today anyway, because that is when the Aspis Consortium attacked, and oh gosh, yes, and they opened up perfect with it. I think this was intentional because they got someone to come up and voice do when the Aspis invaded, this giant snake appears in the sky, and it starts like a voice comes from it, and then they got somebody on stage to like do the full Cobra Commander voice for his threatening condemnation of the Pathfinder Society, and I was just like, oh yes, we're hitting it right, just the right way. And then we got to beat up a whole bunch of Aspis. And I don't want to go into the spoilers too much, but it was kind of cool. And the end encounter, they did the in both the specials, they ordered them so that your party could decide when they were done, like, you know, or they could push further. And every time you pushed further, it got more and more dangerous, to the point, not in the Aspis one, but to the other one, where it was no longer going to be scaled to your level if you kept pushing. Like, you were heading into the dangerous stuff, and it will be the appropriate level of the dangerous stuff if you keep pushing. And of course, my group was just like, go, 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 we don't care, go. And I'm like, I'm playing the pre-gen, sure. And it was great. The Aspis one, okay, Aspis attacks, awesome stuff happens. I did not get to do the opposite side of that because I had interviews that morning that had to be made. So, like, on Sunday, they had the opposite side of that, of Weeby Aspis. That's not its it's not its real name, but it's its unofficial name. And I wanted to play Weeby Aspis so much, but I couldn't. But I did get to play Skykey Solution, which is it's the end of the whole Skykey campaign that we've been doing this whole last year. So we finally get the Skykey, and we put it together, and we use it. And that can never go wrong, right?
Was Creighton Shane involved?
Yes, of course Creighton Shane was
fine.
involved. Oh, man, I don't know how much of this to spoil and how much of this to not. Like, are people going to be able to play this again?
They will be. This time
Okay.
next, or 1 year after Gen Con, it is released as available for all venture officers and I think maybe 5-star GMs. Before that, venture officers that are scheduling big events can request to run a special if they reach, I believe it's 5 tables or like 60 players or something like that. My math is wrong somewhere. But yeah, there's a way that you can play it at a smaller con or even just like a big gaming store event. So yeah, we're not going to be spoiling this.
Okay, so we will not spoil this at all. So sorry, guys, I won't spoil it too much, but I will give you some hints on why this might be awesome. If you like Creighton Shane, play this adventure. You will spend a lot of time with Creighton Shane. It is cool. In a very cool way, actually. Really, really inventive. And if there was a topic that was discussed when the inevitable big bad thing happens that makes this an adventure and not something we read about in a footnote on the blog, that had every single table that knew anything about Pathfinder going, what? So yeah, certain topics that were not discussed or never to be discussed were discussed. So there's very few of those in Pathfinder, so it's easy to narrow that down. But, like, not spoiled, but new info. And really cool stuff. And if you know what the Skykey does, you can tell exactly how this went badly. But it was really fun, and this was another one where we got to push it, and it gets more and more dangerous. And then, like, my group was just like, sure. And then, like, okay, this is the very last room, and the big bad's on the other side of that. But absolute GM warning right here, it is not scaled. Kick in the door. And it was fun. It was worth it. We all survived. My character survived both specials, which is something I can't say normally when I play these specials. And that was it. That's how it went for the specials this year. There was Weeby Kobolds or True Dragons of Absalom. I didn't get to play that. And there was Weeby Gaspus, or what's its real name?
I'm looking that up now.
Okay.
I thought that was Siege of the Serpents, but I'm guessing I'm wrong about that.
That might be Serpent's Rise.
Oh, maybe that's it.
Yeah. Which is the opposite side of this thing, which was cool. It's not actually the opposite side of the special, but it is tied into what the events of the special.
Right. It
where
starts
you are Aspis.
and ends, or it starts slightly before the other special starts and ends slightly before the other special ends.
Right. But it is cool. I wanted to do it. I've heard nothing but great things, but didn't get to do it. Other than that, I played lots of Weeby Werewolf, or not Weeby Werewolf. I played lots of Werewolf because everybody plays Werewolf at Gen Con. Played a whole bunch of new card games. Got really addicted to Boss Monster, if you're familiar with this game.
Quite familiar with Boss
I
Monster.
love me some Boss Monster. I did not know I loved me some Boss Monster until I played it at Gen Con. I played the demo, bought the game. Played the game that I bought, went back and bought the rest of it that they had to offer. Like, I bought the table. And it was fun.
For the people that don't know Boss Monster, you're playing like an 8-bit villain, and you are creating a dungeon that will attract heroes because you need to collect hero souls to win. So you want it to be lucrative enough to attract certain heroes, and like if you fill it up with spell books, you'll attract wizards. If you fill it up with magic swords, you'll attract fighters, etc. But you also want it to be deadly enough to stop them from getting to you and killing you. And the other boss monsters can cast spells to aid them or mess up your dungeon. So you could be basically encouraging your assassin to come and kill you. It's a fun little game. It's plays pretty quickly. It's fairly light, but there's at least a decent amount of strategy that can go into it. Like there's decision making, and that's all I need in a board game. It can be light, it can be a little bit random, as long as I feel like I can make a decision on my turn.
And the expansions kind of really they were debuting Boss Monster 2, which is the standalone expansion, so it can be played by itself or mixed in. And then there was the first expansion, which had already released, but I bought that too. And it looks like if you add those together, it does add a lot more decision making, which is the nature of all these card games. They start off with a base premise, and then the first expansion is all the stuff they really wanted to do before release but had to get cut. And then, or this is my experience with talking with game designers. And then, of course, the second real sequel. And they're cool because it's all, like you said, 8-bit. So the boxes are designed like classic Nintendo cartridges, except for the first one looks just like Mario 1's box, and the second one looks just like Mario 2's box. But they did a cool trick where it looks like Mario 2, the actual Mario 2 Japanese box, normally, but at Gen Con they had a special slip cover on it that made it look like Mario 2's American release box, which was a neat trick. But the expansion looks like a Game Boy cartridge.
Yeah, there's definitely throwback appeal to this. A lot of 8-bit graphics that just they look nice, they look familiar. A lot of it you'll recognize the sprites, and they are not shy to. They don't shy away from referencing Nintendo games, classic Nintendo games. Yeah, it's a game for a certain generation, but it's also fun enough that anyone that's familiar with any kind of video role-playing game can see the appeal and can get what it's going for.
Right. All right. To Evan Andrews, I don't know if you're new to the podcast. Unfortunately, we don't have any music queued up that I'm comfortable putting on without getting copyright strikes on our YouTube when we upload it there. But I will look into the possibility of adding a music undertone to the show. I don't know how that'll actually affect it when it becomes podcast. I know that that is normal procedure for Twitch, though. Another trend.
Talk to Ben about that. I think.
Oh yes, yes.
We have an agreement. Yeah, that we totally forgot about.
Yeah, I could do that, and I will talk with Ben. I will talk with Ben. So Ben, I will be talking with you. Also, Ben that we're talking about is Ben from Sirenscapes, Ben Looms. And if you don't know about Sirenscape, then you haven't been listening to the podcast lately. But it is awesome, so go check him out. They announced some neat stuff. No, they didn't announce neat stuff. But they did neat stuff at Gen Con, which will be cool. And they recorded a custom sound set at Gen Con, which was also cool. So you like their whole booth, you could walk up and like they like, I need you to roar, and so you would roar into their microphone, and like if you did that you could get like a free sound set from them, and then they were compiling that into the Gen Con sound set with dragons and sounds and cool stuff. He knows how to work a show, he knows how to work an audience. The other trend I saw at Gen Con this year is all at once like 15 different companies are copying Geek Chic tables.
Oh, yeah.
There were like tons of them, and I kept thinking I was just walking by the same one, but no, it was like literally like 5 or 6 different companies making basically Geek Chic tables, or their imitations of varying quality. Some I looked great, like as good as the Geek Chic or better, and some looked really bad, with appropriate pricing involved in this.
For anyone that's not familiar, Geek Chic are the really fancy upscale tables. These things are thousands of dollars, and then thousands of dollars on top of that to ship. And Geek Chic itself actually elevated their game because they had a pop-up store in the mall where you can just go and bring your board games and just play on their tables for free, get the full Geek Chic experience, which was just like amazing. They release such amazing games. You're just sitting there, and then you're like, oh hey, is that a drawer? And yeah, you're pulling out drawers that have like sub compartments and stuff. It's like, forget about it as a gaming table. I just want all my furniture to have so many like hidden compartments and stuff. And then on top of that, the gaming table, yes, I would love to one day own a Geek Chic gaming table.
Oh, no,
but again, thousands of dollars.
Yeah, it would cost as much as my entire game room to get just one of their tables. And like, and it was considered, like, that thought process and that trade-off did enter my mind. Would it be worth it to just get the table or the game room? But that's literally the type of scale of cost we're talking. We're talking anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 easy, depending on how much you want to max this thing out. Their competition, also similar prices. I've seen like the bad ones that looked like it was made out of rough lumber, tacked together at Lowe's, was like, the $1,000 level. And then like they had this one group that was doing really nice tables, and I think they were called Critical Hit, which is a nice name for a table company. But and their table was pretty good, but as expensive. Yeah, so that was the other trend I noticed this year, is lots of that. What trends did you notice?
I just want to address Bastile's question in chat before it gets lost. He was asking if the last episode was uploaded to YouTube. Do you want to tell people what's going on with episode 113?
Okay, for those of you who do not know about episode 113, hopefully, if you're listening to this on audio, then you've happily been listening to 113 already. But for those of you who have been watching the show live or are used to our YouTube presence, 113 got eat. Well, more specifically, due to power outages and internet outages in the southern area that took multiple states out while we were trying to record twice, it ended up basically destroying the episode. We had to record it in spurts, trying to reconnect, and eventually we had to call it quits over the course of 2 days. Now, there is good news. We have the snippets and the segments several times, so that we are trying to actively edit that into an episode that can be released. But that has been difficult, especially since the power outages have not exactly gone away. In fact, we were actually worried when we started this episode that it would not cancel this episode as well. So while we were editing, or while I was editing this, the power out went out again and corrupted the source file. We have backups, but it does mean we had to start over. But you should be hearing episode 113 on YouTube soon, if I can get this mangled into a decent video, and you definitely will be hearing the audio at least soon. But this is not going through the automated Twitch process because we're having to do a lot of more manual editing than we were prepared to do.
And this conversation we're having now was supposed to be news content on episode 113, and it got bumped, and we're in the middle of Hell of an August, which we've been promoting as everything that goes up on the website is either going to be Gen Con coverage, or it's going to be related to Cheliax and Hell's Rebels, which is just coming out, and Hell's Vengeance, which will be coming out in January, because we're super excited about all of that. But it got to the point where it's like we either do another interview show or we do Gen Con coverage, and we can't not do Gen Con coverage. There was actually quite a lot of announcements. We were saying at the beginning that there wasn't a whole lot of new product, but there was. I mean, there was still Occult Adventures, which is good. They got the big hardcover out, but it's the news. There's a lot of news that we actually. How about we get to covering some of that right now, Param? Starting with what people have already been talking about in chat, mainly Miss Roy, and that is Strange Aeons.
Strange Aeons! Oh my gosh, Paizo really slipped this one under us. I did not predict this at all. Ryan, did you predict this? Or did you have inside knowledge?
No awesome inside knowledge this time. And I would not have predicted this. Am I wrong in thinking that they're announcing further ahead than they usually are?
No, this would be the
they usually announce next Gen Con at this Gen Con?
It only seems like that because we have the Year of Hell up next year. But yeah, usually the 6-month one gets announced at Paizo, which in this case is part of the Year of Hell. Hell's Vengeance, and so that's why it seems like it's longer. And then the August one gets announced at Gen Con, which in this case will be Strange Aeons. And oh boy, howdy, is that one. For those of you who don't know what Strange Aeons is, it's a reference to Lovecraft. In Strange Aeons, even death may die. So basically, it is the adventure path where we will be dealing with lots of Lovecraftian horrors, and will also involve us exploring outside past the inner sea region, which is also going to be great. It is going to tie into the hardcover that was also announced, which is Horror Adventures, mainly because it is going to, you can't do Lovecraftian without dealing with madness. And they told me some of the things about how the madness will be used that is very, very exciting. So, what do you think right off the bat? Lovecraft, tentacles.
I like that Pathfinder up till now has Lovecraft influence. I object to sometimes Lovecraft taking up more than its share, but getting an entire dedicated Lovecraft adventure path, I am completely on board on that. I get it. I definitely think that Paizo has proven that these are people that can make a great Lovecraft adventure path. And I like a lot of what James Jacobs was saying, that this isn't going to be all investigation like you might find in Call of Cthulhu, because Call of Cthulhu already exists. There's plenty of Cthulhu-based or Lovecraft-based role-playing games. This one is going to be specifically, this is a Pathfinder Lovecraft adventure path. The one thing I'm surprised is that it doesn't end with a Cthulhu fight. They've already said that Cthulhu is not the main bad guy of this adventure path. And it's like, well, if not now, when?
Yeah, I think they just want to not do that because it's too easy on who they want. Yeah, that's too easy to do the call on. But it's weird because they're referencing him directly in the title, but not in the book. But yeah, they said he's not going to make an appearance in this adventure path. They're going with different Lovecraftian beasties. They're going for more sinister. Like, they really reference True Detective as probably one of the big influencers for this. For those of you that I just spoiled True Detective for, I'm sorry. But yeah, so there is going to be investigative elements. We're not going to say that it's not going to have any of that, but in the end, this is still characters getting stronger, fighting back, which is something that doesn't happen in Call of Cthulhu unless you're playing Call of Cthulhu wrong. So this will be fighting back against these overwhelming horrors. The characters are going to start with amnesia, like everybody, and the implications of what that means in a Lovecraftian sense are going to apply here. And I'm out of thought. I'm out of talk. I've brained out. Ryan, take over.
All right, well, just looking at chat, we've got Ash Saber saying it's interesting to do a Lovecraftian adventure that's still combat-focused. If you check out Wake of the Watcher, which is part 4 of the Carrion Crown adventure path, that actually kind of shows you exactly what to expect just on a larger scale. Now, that was pretty much the main thing I was referencing earlier when I said that Lovecraft kind of oversteps its boundaries other times. Carrion Crown was a horror-based adventure path, but Lovecraft horror is very different from the other horror that was in that. And I always felt that of these 6 parts, that was the one part that was like, they just love Lovecraft too much. They put him in when he didn't fit as well as he could have. But Wake of the Watcher is actually a very good adventure. It's just the theme felt a little bit off. And if there's an entire adventure path that feels like that, where you're just going around and like you're interacting with crazy things, you're dealing with people that are not acting like NPCs normally act in Pathfinder, and you yourself are subject to a new type of damage, which is damage to your sanity, which can lead to crazy things. My character, Walter, developed a split personality, multiple personality disorder, and we really played up that, and it tied in nicely to his backstory, since Walter had killed his entire family when they went crazy, and here he was going crazy. Like, these are opportunities that I don't usually have when I'm role-playing, and that's particular adventure and those particular sub-mechanics allowed me to explore a new type of way of playing Pathfinder, which is exactly what every adventure path or every other adventure path I feel should do. So if if Strange Aeons is just Wake of the Watcher in 6 parts, it's going to be a win as far as I'm concerned.
And they also did another adventure that was very Lovecraftian, and that's From Shore to Sea, which is very reminiscent to Shadow over Innsmouth. And Brendan Hodge put that one together. And which, if you didn't know who Brendan Hodge is, man, he is the perfect guy to be helping with this. He is all super into the occult, all super into all of that awesomeness, and he knows what he's talking about here. And he's definitely the one to go to for this. So Wesley Snyder's also going to be writing the first one, which is another great one because it starts in Ustalov, and that's his baby. But From Shore to Sea really deals with Aslant and how that ties into the Lovecraftian elements in Pathfinder. And it was also one of the patron developed ones, which I have to disclose because I was a patron on that. So take that with a grain of salt when you hear me ever recommend it. But it was cool. It's also a Lovecraftian one, not as horror oriented as the Carrion Crown one, though. But if you love playing with insanity, this is the one to get into because you get to play with it right away.
Now, going back, somebody asked, was it Bastille? He asked if it was announced what new continent they would be going to. And correct me if I'm wrong, it's Sarazan, isn't it?
Yes.
So, Galarian, Australia?
Yes.
I wish I could find... Oh, there we go. Oh, it was Nohar the Shark. Asked, did they announce which new continent? Yeah, so it's Sarazan.
Mm-hmm. I can never pronounce it correctly when I see it written.
I mean, it could be Saruzin, it could be No, I guess that's it. Sarazan or Saruzin.
Mm-hmm. Yes. But it'll be cool. Yeah, but everything there will kill you because if it's Galarian in Australia, then our real Australia, it's the perfect place to hide the most horrible, horrible things. You know, I love Australia and Australians, but you have poison things that aren't supposed to be poisoned down there.
No. Australia is just subject to a lot of bad propaganda against it right now.
Right.
It was too beautiful of a place, too great of a vacation destination. Everyone else got jealous and started talking about the spiders.
The spiders?
A couple of other things from chat I want to point out. Alex Agunas is joining us. Hey, Alex.
Hey,
he
Alex!
says that Cthulhu dwells on Earth in the Galarian universe. He's asleep in the Pacific Ocean, which is his way of, I guess, saying why Cthulhu is not in the main villain of the Adventure Path.
Which
I
makes
say,
a ton
yeah,
of sense, actually.
for now.
Which is totally a legit argument because we've determined that right now in Galarian it's 1921. Yes, that would be the current year because it was 1919 2 years ago with Reign of Winters. So it is.
Sure, that wasn't 3 years ago. Anyway, continue.
2 years ago. Yes,
2 years ago.
I can count them on the shelf. 1 year, 2 year. Okay. So, and that means that if he's supposed to be there in time for Call of Cthulhu to happen, I guess we're assuming that's going to be canon, then he has to be asleep in the Pacific Ocean right now. So, great call. But when he wakes up...
Yeah. Oh, is that what we're waiting for? Oh. There's a couple of other things in chat that I just want. Scott Melville says he always puts max ranks into craft love.
Oh.
And Bastille is asking, he heard that they just found flying spiders. You're close. They found paragliding spiders, Bastille. So they don't fly. Like, they can't get vertical. But once they climb up, they will dive bomb onto you. It's very different.
Not different enough, Ryan. I have a flying animal that's a gliding animal, and trust me, it's good enough. Tinkers can get wherever the heck she wants to get to. And you are never safe. And she has a poison attack. Paizo says so.
J. Franklin 3000 says, where did they announce that we are going to Sarazan? Do you know, Param? Was it in the Adventure Path
at the
seminar?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you go to nodirectionpodcast.com, one of the first Gen Con 2015 seminars that we posted was the Adventure Path. What was it called?
Oh, Jay Franklin might be right. He might be. It's Casmaran, not Sarazan.
Oh.
And we might have
Are we
totally
mixing up
screwed
our
that up.
crazy continents?
Yes, we are. And Jason Franklin is right. It is Casmaran, not Sarazan.
Oh, well then, we're not going to Galarian, Australia. We are going to Galarian...
Greek.
What? What is Casmaran?
Greece.
Oh, really?
Mhm.
Oh, well, that changes everything.
Yes.
There's no
very different.
spiders in Greece.
No.
Well then, I am going to have to look this up. Thank you. Who did you say
Justin
corrected
Franklin.
us?
Justin Franklin.
Justin Franklin. All right, thank you, Justin.
Mhm.
So, now Justin Franklin's saying that it's Galarian Asia.
That's Tina Shaw.
Yeah, but maybe that's the Far East Asia, whereas this would... Anyway, this is...
Okay.
We're at a disadvantage, and I
We're
don't
at a
want to just
super
have a
disadvantage,
conversation
and we're
with
not
chat.
going to go do Google on this. Oh, yeah. And we are losing all our street cred thanks to Justin Franklin, and you have done great at doing so.
All right, you want to talk about some of the RPG hardcover news we got?
Yes, let's go ahead and do that.
Excellent. Horror Adventures.
Yes! And which is awesome because this is what I want them to keep doing. I want them to keep making Playstyle the book. Because this seems to work, and that's actually things I can use on my game shelf besides splat books and monster books.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this just continues to show that anytime we've tried to predict the upcoming hardcovers based on the release trends, there's just nothing. They're doing back-to-back, well, not back-to-back adventures, but they did occult adventures, and then they're doing horror adventures, and they did mythic adventures the year before. Yeah, the year before. But the year before that, it was, I believe, Ultimate Equipment had come out at Gen Con. So the main two lines right now are Ultimates and Adventures. And really, there's no pattern that we can figure out to when they're going to release what. So next year, we're getting Ultimate Intrigue, which we already talked a lot about with Jason Bullman and with the announcements at PaizoCon. And the new one we're hearing about is Horror Adventures. What do we know about Horror Adventures so far, Param?
Okay, we do know that it will have what you can expect on the cover: advice for running a horror adventure game. It will have madness rules, obviously, because they need that. And it also will have something they're calling the corruption system, which they showed as some of the examples given were like getting bit by a vampire and then slowly turning, not like boom, failure, save your vampire, but like, hey, today animals don't really like you all of a sudden, but and they introduced something like this, like a temptation. Oh, it's really hard to go down into, but basically like how you corrupt will like be measurably next to like how much you're willing to embrace said corruption. So the more you enjoy the fact and take advantage of your newfound abilities, the faster you down that tree you go, and the less human you become. So they talked about vampires, and they didn't mention a whole lot of them, but vampires, I think werewolves were mentioned. Craziness and madness, I think, will be part of this too. And this is the player-focused option from what I gather. So they didn't mention new class at all. They didn't mention new races at all. So this seems to be... Now, we don't know that there's no new class or races, but this seemed to be what they were really eager to talk about when they brought the book up.
I doubt we're getting new races. We are, like, races have been... Like, there's basically two books that you get your races as far as the hardcovers go.
Mm-hmm.
You've got your core rulebook and you've got the advanced race guide. And I know that
Races of Galarian.
we are getting Races of Galarian coming up, and I think that's going to cover anything that is established but we haven't covered yet. And so I really wouldn't expect new races in horror adventures. I think that horror-based races will probably be in Races of Galarian, and so everyone that's planning on running horror adventures would probably do well to pick that book up. And as far as new classes, those are typically only in the Ultimate line. So I wouldn't expect either of those things from horror adventures. The adventures books tend to be more subsystems.
Right. But we got a class in...
Did we?
In...
I don't think we've ever got we've got the Mythic, which had all the Mythic tiers, which is the closest we've got to a class in an adventures book.
Occult?
Oh, I take it all back because we just got 6 new classes in Occult Adventures. And yep, Param, yes. 100% yes. But actually, I can't think of any horror classes that we would get that we didn't get in Occult Adventures, unless you're going to go pop culture and we're going to have Ash.
When poked about this, like, they're not going to need to remake the Investigator because we have one. Which is the class that comes to mind when you think about Cthulhu-y. The only thing else I can think of would be like a hunter class, and not like hunter, but I mean like vampire hunter, werewolf hunter, but we already have a hunter. We already, even if we wanted to dip into Whedonverse and grab Slayer, we actually already have a Slayer, and we already have and there's already way many options on killing these nasty beasties. So like, there's whole archetypes about vampire hunting and stuff like that. So we don't need to add more onto that. But yeah, this seems to be the theme. Honestly, this was almost like underplayed. Its announcement is all the excitement was for Strange Aeons, and the only play on this was, oh well, how will this help Strange Aeons?
Now, the big question for me is, do we really need horror adventures when we just got Occult Adventures?
I think so, because the Occult Adventures... Now, we haven't done a review of Occult Adventures. I guess we're going to do that eventually, soonish.
In October. We'll have an Occult October.
Okay. Yes. But it's all about the weirdness and the strangeness and the psychic and sort of like the Penny Dreadful side of like almost Victorian dread and mystery. And this is going to be more of the grotesque and the horrible and the damned and the lost and the terrible. Like, Occult is all weird and creepy, and will definitely play into a lot of what they're going to end up doing in Strange Aeons, I can only imagine. But this is actually going to be dealing with the scary and the helplessness, and yeah. One of the things they said, Brandon Hodge pointed out, was that if you want to make your character scared in Pathfinder, it's hard to do that, but it's real easy to do that when they start forming boils all over their character, and oh gosh, when the characters can't control what's happening to them and they can't attack it with a sword, it becomes real easy to scare them.
By the way, Alex and Ash Sabers in chat have corrected a common mistake we make. It's not Races of Galarian, it's Inner Sea Races.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is the hardcover book for the Pathfinder role-playing game line that's going to be coming. Not role-playing game, the Pathfinder campaign setting line that's going to be coming out.
Yeah, sorry about that. I guess because we already have the Races of Galarian series, so I can make...
Right, those were the floppy ones. This is going to be a hardcover.
Yep.
And it's going to be like Inner Sea Gods. That's what we're going to have to remind ourselves. It's the follow-up to Inner Sea Gods. It's Inner Sea Races.
Right, and Inner Sea World Guide. They always begin with Inner Sea. I guess maybe that'll change if we aren't in the Inner Sea region, but until then, I guess they'll continue. No.
As it is, the Inner Sea World Guide is a world guide about a continent or an area. So right from the beginning, we know that Inner Sea kind of stands in for the most populated area of Galarian as far as adventures go.
Right. Now, I did have a thought, and I just... Okay, no new Inner Sea hardcover was announced, which was also an odd standout, because they started announcing them, and we've had one the last few years, Inner Sea World Guide reprint. Then we had the Inner Sea Gods, then Inner Sea Races, and now nothing. So...
yeah.
I was expecting to see another Inner Sea hardcover, which means that we are short on hardcovers this year compared to last year.
Interesting. Well, let's see. I mean, yes and no, because the strategy guide got pushed back so far that this year we're actually getting an extra hardcover But they've also stated a couple of times that Strategy Guide got pushed back because they overestimated how much extra work Inner Sea Gods would be. And I think by the time Inner Sea Races was announced, it was already too far along for them to delay that in favor of fixing the Strategy Guide. And there was probably also a little more interest in that book. I think that maybe what we're seeing now are kind of the aftershocks of the delay of the Strategy Guide. And that and the other thing is that they may be just releasing these couple of hardcovers as testing ground to see how well campaign setting based hardcovers are going to be before either diving right into them or putting them every other year. Like, this is still a fairly new type of product for them, and I'm speculating a lot right now, but the fact that we don't have a new campaign setting hardcover book announced for next year, it might mean a lot of things.
Yeah. Now, I'm hopeful because I guess what I really want to see with the hardcovers is, I guess what I wanted to see with the hardcovers is I wanted, at one point T.N. Shaw was, at one point it was going to be a hardcover and then it wasn't. So I kind of want that treatment. I want the hardcover treatment for the other continents, especially if T.N. Shaw, because of that was going to be a big deal, and we have these other continents. I would love to explore them, or if failing that, a hardcover treatment for the planets and the solar system and the space stuff that we got covered barely on Distant Worlds.
It really all depends on which direction they want to go with the campaign setting.
Yeah. And I guess that does divide it up. You run into the Forgotten Realms problem.
Now, we got a little bit more about Ultimate Intrigue, but I think it was essentially just reading more of the back cover text. We don't know a whole lot more about it. I don't think we need to dedicate any more time to it, unless you know something that you really want to talk about for Ultimate Intrigue.
No, nothing new. We've already done a lot, and we've had interviews for that. And there's nothing new for Ultimate Intrigue to really talk about.
Well, then I want to talk about some of the things that were announced in the Paizo 2015 and beyond, and the Pathfinder Expanding Universe seminars.
Okay.
That again you can find on NoDirectionPodcast.com. One of them is a lot more information about Pathfinder Tales going forward. So when the tour deal was announced, a lot of us were like, well, what does this mean for us? We're getting slightly larger books, which nobody really asked for a larger price, which, that means it costs us more for the same content. And we were hearing things like it'll have larger distribution and stuff like that, and that's nice. But for the people that were already reading Pathfinder Tales, it was like, so are other people benefiting on the backs of our labor? Well, we finally got some more information about how we are going to be benefiting from it. One is that the entire back catalog is coming to Audible. AudiblePodcast.com is a audiobook website. It's pretty much the main source for audiobooks right now, and it's extremely popular and extremely successful. And the entire back catalog, which at this point is over 50 Pathfinder Tales books, I'm estimating. Param, how far off do you think I am?
I say there's only about 30.
Okay, well, still, that's a lot of audio to produce.
Right.
I'm kind of curious which one of us is right. The other thing is that when the tour deal got announced, the subscription bundle that was on Paizo.com, which was if you subscribe to the books, you got the PDF for free, that got discontinued, and so now if you subscribe to the books, you got a discount on a digital copy of the book. So again, people were like, but I've been supporting this for years and now it's more expensive for the same thing. What this opens up is Kindle. Previously, Paizo was not able to publish their books onto Kindle for whatever reason. Eric Mona references that this was impossible for them before, but now because of Tor, they are going to be getting onto Kindle. I don't know more than that. When I mentioned this to Param, you were really suspicious about why this is. You didn't understand this deal, and I don't have any answers for you. All I know is that before Tor, no Kindle. After Tor, Kindle.
Right. And that is hand in hand because Amazon owns Audible, owns Kindle. So I imagine they're in Tor, where I guess they love Amazon. So that will happen. I guess if you're a book publisher at all, you'll love Amazon or hate them, depending. But yeah, and it's good. And as far as the Audible thing, I love Audible. I think it's a great service. I would love if more of the books I could just listen to instead of having to read. Not that I don't love reading, it's just it's so much easier for me to listen to the book at work because I can't read it at work. Not when I'm at my desk. And we are one of the few podcasts that aren't sponsored by Audible, so my recommendation on that is totally unbiased.
By the way, Justin Franklin 3000 comes through 28 novels in the Pathfinder Tales line. I'm assuming that's up to and including Dave's new one, The Lord of Runes.
And Liar's Island, that's coming out here real soon.
So in any case, Param, your guess of around 30, much more accurate than mine of over 50.
Now, I wonder if it's over 50 if you count the compilations of the web fictions that were put together.
If you count those compilations, there's 75 products in the fiction section,
Okay.
which includes the novels, the short fiction, and the web fiction. So the short fiction is the compilations of the fiction from the adventure paths, I believe, and then the web fiction is the web fiction.
Justin Franklin says it does indeed include Liar's Island.
Oh, okay.
Which is another one I'm super excited to read.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and the new Pirates book was announced.
Yes, Pirate's Prophecy.
Yes.
I've enjoyed the first two, and the second one more than the first,
Yep.
and I liked the first more after reading the second, so I'm excited for the third.
Yep. I love both of those books, so excited for the third. I really like that I can just recommend these as good books and not just good for game fiction, because I really enjoy these books as books.
Also in Pathfinder Fiction, we got the next Dynamite Pathfinder Comics announcement. It is going to be called Hollow Mountain, which is in Varissia. It takes place entirely in this dungeon, which was created by the Rune Lords. And there's an interesting twist to what's going on. It's going to be the main 6 iconics that we've had, that we've met throughout all of the Pathfinder comics so far.
Okay.
So Valeros, Seoni, Kira, Mericiel, Ezrin, and Harsk. It's also going to include a rival group of familiar iconics that are all a little bit on the less noble side. So the ones that were listed specifically were Celtiel, which is the iconic Magus who we met in Pathfinder Origins. And then debuting for the first time in the comics, Damiel, who is the iconic Alchemist. Melagaster, who is the iconic Mesmerist. And Olok, the iconic War Priest. I'm really excited about Olok, actually, because we haven't seen much from Half-Orcs in the comics, and I know virtually nothing about Olok, other than that Olok is the iconic War Priest. Also, Malagaster's an interesting choice, because, Param, have you read Pathfinder Origins number 6 yet?
No.
That is where Ezrin teams up with Lem.
Right.
Malagaster is Lem's brother. Now, Param, I think you're actually going to be a little disappointed in number 6, because Lem is not prominently featured at all.
No.
So Pathfinder Origins, for people that don't know, it takes the 6 iconics we know and focuses on one of them in each story, plus teams them up with one of the other iconics from the core rulebook, with Celtiel being the 12th one to round out the 6 team-ups. And Celtiel's story ends with him and Seoni not being on good terms.
No.
So it's cool that they're going to continue that relationship. Actually, I like Damiel. I'm glad that he's going to be introduced in there, and I'm glad that alchemists in general are going to be introduced into the comic. So it's going to start with these 2 groups as rivals, and then some catastrophic event is going to happen, and the 2 groups are going to get mixed up and then split in 2. So we're going to get some good and some bad in 2 different parties. And Eric Mona also hinted that all of the divine casters will be in one of these 2 parties. So the other one will be completely without healers.
Oh, that's going to end badly.
It might.
Yeah, but they're not going to kill off an iconic.
Won't they?
No, they won't.
Would anyone cry for Olok?
They haven't got a chance to use him much.
Yeah, someone would cry for Olok.
Yeah. Well, he's the only. No, he's not. The other half orc is the Inquisitor. So
yeah,
but he's the only. But he's the only one that acts like a half orc.
You seem to know a lot more about Olok than I do.
Well, he had this bio up on the Pazzo blog.
Yes, and I've linked to it in the show notes.
Hmm.
I still haven't read it. There are a lot of bios at this point, and they've gotten quite large.
Yeah.
So I tend to only read the ones that I'm already interested in, which is not fair. But no, you know what? I should go back and read up on all of the Iconics just to know what their story is.
Miss Roy is calling it now. Kira and Miss Real will be in separate groups. Probably.
Oh no!
You're probably right on that one.
Yeah, no, that's a good call. Oh man, would they kill off Mercial?
I can't imagine they would. She's a fan
I know.
favorite.
Yeah, but
That's the problem with tie-in fiction. Like, I'm not going to rule it out. I mean, Pazzo's got the chops and not. But when you've got so much of your product linked in, that does leave off the pressure. I mean, that'd be like saying they're going to kill off Yoshi.
Oh, Yoshi, what have they done?
Well, evidently they've broken up him and Birdo.
Okay.
This is a thing that makes sense if you know what the thing that makes sense I'm talking about is.
I mean, you're talking about Mario, the Mario fiction.
Right, but a very specific aspect of it involving a mistranslation in the Mario 2.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
But focusing more on Pathfinder fiction,
Yes.
Big Finish. Big Finish produces
Ah.
the Pathfinder Legends audiobooks.
Mm-hmm.
And so unlike the Pathfinder Tales, which are going to be readings of the Pathfinder Tales books, Big Finish is exclusively available as this audio adaptation of the Pathfinder Tale, or the Pathfinder Adventure Paths.
Mm-hmm.
So the first one was the Rise of the Rune Lords. Second one is going to be Mummy's Mask.
A weird choice.
I agree, and I thought it was a weird choice when Mummy's Mask was the next adventure card game that was announced as well. So maybe Mummy's Mask was super popular and it was just below my radar.
Well, I like the idea of it. I mean, like, it was all like explory to me stuff, and also super politics because those things go together well. But it makes sense when you're talking about Egypt and Assyrian and all that jazz. But I wasn't led to believe that was a very popular choice. Like my like of it seemed to have been not followed by a lot of people. I not that from a quality standpoint, but it's kind of like how Giant Slayer isn't the most popular thing now because it has to rival with Wrath of the Righteous on one side of it and Hell on the other, and Iron Gods on the other. It's surrounded by big boom, 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 and it's just sort of I'm a fantasy adventure. A really good one from everything I've heard. I've not got to read or play through that one.
I've heard it's well received as well,
Yeah.
but it's true. I don't know too many people that are actually playing it, but I do hear positive things whenever I hear about it.
Right.
Here's some stats about Mummy's Mask. First of all, it's going to be the same cast. So it's Ezrin, Mauricio, Valeros, and Harsk.
Ezra and
Which
Bruce
Kira really feels like she's missing from that party. But I guess not having a healer adds to the drama.
Right.
They are going to explain somehow how this group that just finished killing a Rune Lord, spoilers for the ending of the Rise of the Rune Lords audiobook, I guess, how come they're now being challenged by just giant scorpions and stuff when they get to the beginning of Mummy's Mask?
Yeah, because they would have been... Yeah. But then again, that's the same suspension of disbelief we have to go into every single time we open one of the adventure paths, because it's... I mean, Valeros in one scene is fighting fire giants over a lava pit, and the next scene he's getting his butt kicked by gnolls.
One complaint that they heard a lot about Pathfinder Legends is that they were too short. Every installment was only an hour.
Right.
So for Mummy's Mask, every installment is going to be longer. I believe 2 hours is... I can't find that for sure, but I believe they were saying that it's going to be much longer. And the price will only go up a little bit. So for the Rise of the Rune Lords, every edition of it was $15.99 for a CD or $12.99 for a download. Whereas for Mummy's Mask, it's going to be $21.99 for the CD. We don't have the download price yet. So it's not twice the price, but it may be as much as twice the content.
Now, this is on par with their other production that Big Finish does, but for me personally, that's the reason I can't comment too much more on it, is that it's a price above what I'm willing to pay for that amount of content. I mean, I'm just going to say that as it sits. I mean, audiobooks are cheaper, but they're not as well produced. I understand they're bringing a lot to the table, but that's a lot of ask up front for an hour of content for Rise of the Rune Lords. So hopefully 2 hours is better. I don't know, but even then, $10 an hour, that's more than I usually put in the most entertainment.
As with most things Rise of the Rune Lords, when I've got the option of experiencing Rise of the Rune Lords through, say, the card game, through Pathfinder Legends, through all the other ways it's been adapted, or just playing it, which was always my plan and is now something I'm actually doing, or rather, I'm running it. I always chose the role-playing aspect of it and left all the other stuff as other ways I could have been experiencing it. Mummy's Mask is not an adventure path I ever expect to run or play in. So maybe this will be the way I experience Mummy's Mask, by playing it or by listening to it as an audiobook. But it is quite expensive. So if it's going to be $20 a pop, that's over $100
for the experience.
For 12 hours of content, potentially. I don't know. It's
and
I feel like if I finally just take the plunge, I'll see the value, because all of these products are highly rated on Paizo.com, and Paizo, like, stuff on Paizo.com is not automatically highly rated just because it's got Pathfinder on it, because most things on Paizo.com have Pathfinder on it. These are consistently highly rated, although the number of ratings drops significantly after the first couple.
Yeah. I mean, not to harp on the price, but you say $120. That's like all 4 seasons of The Wire.
Interesting way of looking at it,
and
but
that has
true.
As much production value, easily. I understand why. I understand the concept of it costs money to bring people in, to do all this production work, and we're doing it at a very small scale for a niche market. And $20 for I paid $20 for The Gamers, but I watched that. Yeah. Anyway, I don't want to harp on the price too much.
Big Finish knows its market.
Right.
And if Big Finish knows that it'll sell, like, 90%, or okay, let's say the audience is 100 people, and we know it's much more than that. And if we know they'll sell to the same 100 people, whether it's $10 or $20, then selling it for $20 means that they can afford to do higher production value.
Right.
They know this market way more than we do. I actually tried to research the audiobook market at one point and could not find any information on it. So they know what they're doing. The first one sold well enough that they were able to produce a second one. That's just where we're going from here.
Good on.
Is that it for the product news, Param? That's all the product news that I had come across in the seminars I've listened to. But I admit,
Mask is the next card game, but that's from PaizoCon.
Yep.
There's going to be another Gamers. I know Paizo's involved in that.
Oh, tell me more. Wait, no. This is what we already talked about with the
Gamers group. I'm trying to think of all the stuff that was new that they were talking about. That was kind of cool. Yeah, that's it. Audience, are you aware of anything else that was big announced at Gen Con? Because I think that's it.
Well, the last bit of news then, and it was news when it was announced at Gen Con, that RPG Superstar Season 9, they're calling it, this is the 9th installment of RPG Superstar, would be taking place very shortly as of Gen Con. It's happening now.
Yes, it's right now going on. Is it too late to even get your submission in?
I'm afraid it is, yeah. It started August 7th. The open call closed on the 16th, and voting is now open.
Yes. So go vote! This is so weird to do this again. Evidently, there are going to be some major changes in format this time around, which is why they need the extra time to do it again. And also, they had to get the blessings of Monica Marlowe so that she would not be the RPG Superstar. The reasons it's Season 9 is so that there won't be 2 RPG Superstar 2015s.
Right.
Yes.
So going forward, they're going to be calling RPG Superstar by the season name, but I don't know if they're going to retroactively change how they refer to past
I don't
RPG
think so.
Superstars.
Right. But
years from now, RPG Superstar Season 9 will just have an interesting footnote about how this was the year there were 2 RPG Superstars.
Right. Well,
I heard... this was also because RPG Superstar always competed with Christmas and vacations. And that's true. The open call was usually during Christmas, which I benefited from when I was working at a school because I was off. And so if I was just like, I've got nothing to do for the next 30 minutes, I'm just going to go vote in the open call for
Wait.
RPG Superstar.
Is this why there was an inordinate amount of teachers every time we would do these round of interviews?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to say that's 100% why. The timing just really worked out for people that work at schools.
I work at a school, but I never do any of this stuff. So, awesome. So get out there and vote.
To see if we missed anything cool in chat. Some people are talking about RPG Superstar. Cool, so we are up to date. And there was talk about the Adventure Paths before that. Yeah, I actually have not had a chance to vote yet. All right, I've probably had chances. Right. I haven't taken the time to vote yet. But we're big fans of RPG Superstar around here, as people who listen to us around January know. I wouldn't be surprised if we set up another top 16 in when will that land? Top 16 is announced October 9/17. October. Oh no, that's when we were going to do a Cult October.
Yeah, that's not going to work out well.
Well, we'll see what happens.
Yep. And that wraps up our news.
No, that was news right before Gen Con.
Oh.
This is an important bit of news. The Advanced Class Guide errata came out.
Oh my gosh, yes. I wanted to talk about this last week. That's why I forgot about it, because last week got 8.
It is 9 pages of errata.
Oh
apparently.
My goodness. That book was a mess, and this is just definitive proof that book was a mess. I mean, the book... Okay, we liked the book. We liked the new classes, or at least I did. But man, it was filled with editing mistakes. And
so some of the big examples are the iconic Skald is drawn with a horn. Skalds cannot use the horn for some reason with their performance.
Which is weird.
And as we pointed out a couple of episodes ago, the shield champion, brawler archetype, was not proficient with shields as a weapon. There were just a lot of little things like that it was like, how did this reach publication? It's also got the wrong cover, or it's got the Adventure Path logo on it. It definitely feels like there was a lot of pressure around the release of this book, and too many compromises had to be made for it to be released on time last year. Right. And that's unfortunate, because this is basically, hopefully they get to a second printing, because the second printing is basically going to be the actual version of the Advanced Class Guide.
Yeah. I mean, and that's just really unfortunate. I mean, like you said, I mean, the cover itself was wrong. And, I mean, we laughed about it at the time. I guess we're still going to laugh about it. But this is going to be a case where I'm just going to legit have to buy another copy of this book. Because, like, that's too much errata for me to just remember.
Yeah, now I haven't gone through this thoroughly, because it is just dense page after dense page of pure text referencing another book that I don't use too often in my game right now. Have you noticed, like, you remember my main complaints about it? I liked all the classes, but everything else I found weirdly restricted. That it was like, here's a feat that's only good for Skalds, and it's like, what? Why? I can see 100 different classes and character concepts that could use this feat. Why would you put that really weirdly specific limitation on this feat? Did they remove any of that?
I don't know. I didn't check for that at all. I mean, it's the class that the classes were the pull for that book, so that's where all my attention is with that book.
And I've gotten a decent, like, my group has gotten a decent amount of use of the class section already, and I'm playing my Brawler in Pathfinder Society and enjoying it quite a bit. But Advanced Class Guide was it's one of the only books that I would call a disappointment when I got it.
Alex Agunas says he totally went through it. Nope, Ryan, they added even more. Alex, do I have you on Skype? Ryan, do you have Alex on Skype? Let's get Alex in here.
Okay, sure. Do I have Alex on Skype? How do I not have Alex on Skype? Didn't we all right. Alex, message me on Facebook with your Skype information.
Yeah, oh my gosh, they did not.
What?
Alex Agunas, i.e. they made Slashing Grace Swashbuckler only. They broke like half the dex builds in the game with that decision.
Wow. Special sudden guest, says Ash Saber.
Oh my gosh. Man, that's horrible. Man, I gotta pull that up, man. Oof. Man. This is probably Pazzo's first big black eye.
Alex, did you hear that I wanted you to message me on Facebook how to add you on Skype? I'm assuming you have
There's
Skype.
gonna be a delay. He
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what's happening.
Parry and Post got removed from all the archetypes, so only the real swashbucklers get it now.
Wild Alex Spears. It's a slaughterhouse in that errata. Wow, it's a book I wasn't happy about. Well, okay. I like it decent enough, but there was aspects of it I'm not happy about. And now it just seems worse. So, Alex, how do I add you on Skype?
We had him in here. Why don't we not have him?
Unless he's just not listed as Alex in my contacts.
Right. Totally. Oh man, I wanted Alex to get in here. Because if he's gone completely through this, he can totally give us some info on this. And this is kind of super timely, and we need him in here. Is he on Facebook? Can we message him?
Yeah, he just messaged me.
Okay, what's he say?
He said yes, which I think is in reference to Alex, can you hear me? Oh, he says Skype lags him.
Oh.
You know what? I'll tell him to find me.
Yep. All right. Okay, so... Okay, yes. Also, on the positive note, the Hell's Rebels Player's Guide is out. I haven't read it, but Justin Franklin says it is awesome. So, hey, that's awesome. I have not read it, but they released the art for it, which included some of the character art. And you know how they were talking about after the last year in diversity panel that they were going to start doing body diversity too?
Yes.
As part of the thing. So they have a portly halfling on this one. So we have Marbolo, that isn't Fat Valros, and now we have one of the cover characters for this. So it's good to see that they're following through on that, and of course they also followed through on the kid with Yoon. And speaking of Yoon, as soon as everybody saw Yoon, they started talking about Owlbear. Because if you've seen Yoon, she has a stuffed
bear owl.
A bear owl?
Bear owl is the name of his teddy.
Okay, so bear owl. So when I was talking with Wes at Gen Con, I said, yeah, so like 5 people have already told me they want bear owl as a as a plushie, and he goes, I know, I dreaded it from the second I saw it. I knew people were going to be wanting that. It looks like we might be getting an Alex Agunas in here.
This is an appropriate time considering we were talking about the kid iconic.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
And
can you guys hear me?
We can totally hear you, and the audience can totally hear you. So we can't guarantee. There was no guarantees or promises made about that, but he did. It was known that if there is, this was going to be a long process. So still no guarantees that it will happen, and even if it does happen, it can't happen anytime soon because evidently making a plushie is a complicated thing. So I hope we get a bear owl. I would really like bear owl to go right next to my goblin plushies. So Alex, we don't have video from you. Are you going to be able to get video?
I don't. Oh, maybe this button.
That's the button that usually does it.
Yes. Wait, that's just a picture of me.
That's okay. There we go. We have you. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm glad you're okay. Good. I'm glad you're repanned. All right. So, tell us about this 9-page errata. You've gone through it.
Yeah, I have. I went through it actually several times because, so Paizo's errata system is interesting because what they do is they kind of like break it up page by page, and so they'll tell you everything to change on every single page in the book. And considering that the errata goes through basically every chapter except for the class building one, which is the last chapter, that's why it's so massive. And the errata itself,
from what I've seen, has caused a lot of confusion from people because some feats and abilities were changed so much that, like, you go to the feats chapter, you have that entire table. And so, like, entire entries on the table had to be updated, which means, like, some things have, like, the really short text. For example, steadfast personality, which used to let you add your charisma on will saves as an insight bonus against mind affecting effects exclusively, got a change in this book. So what steadfast personality does now is you actually substitute your charisma for your wisdom on will saves, period. It's now a substitution mechanic instead of adding it on a specific case. And that both the feat in the document and the feat on the table needed to be updated. So people were looking at it and, like, there's maybe like a quick one sentence describing what steadfast personality does earlier in the book, because that table obviously comes before the steadfast personality page. So it'll just say use your charisma bonus on will saves, and then people are going, oh my gosh, what does this mean? It's so vague, it's even worse. And then, like, you scale down like another like page or two and it's like, oh, this one says change this and now it makes sense. Okay. So I think just this is the first time where there were as many people anticipating an errata as there were. So there was a lot of confusion on how the errata process works. I mean, like, if you're old vets like I am, and I'm sure you guys are too, then it's like, oh yeah, I know, I've read errata before, I know how they do this. But if you've never read an errata before, there's no, like, manual, which a lot of the issues come from that. One of the things that one of the listeners mentioned is the Swashbuckler didn't have anything that was unique to the class because there were so many archetypes in that book that borrowed stuff from it. So I guess the decision was made to make Opportune, Parry, and Riposte a unique mechanic. So anything in the entire book that used to grant Opportune, Parry, and Riposte no longer can grant it anymore. Which is, there are a lot of big changes like that, which makes the errata, again, very large and interesting from that perspective.
So it's not just clarifying a lot of confusion, because there was a lot of just weirdness to the advanced class guide. It seems like they're making decisions, and I don't know if the errata is the time to be making decisions like that, because by now a lot of people have made characters based on that feat. Like, they have made their dex-based warriors who might not be swashbucklers.
So, this is going to be a very negative way to say it, and I apologize because I think most of the changes in the book are positive. But picture back to the crane wing errata.
Yep.
And apply that to over 100 pages of the product. So that's kind of what it looks like. There are a lot of big changes. It's not like, oh, let's fix some vague points. There's, like, actual mechanical changes in this book.
Now, in your experience, were most of these necessary?
I think that's kind of a loaded question because people who were already using things as they were are going to be a little bit, please don't hurt my character. There's a very melodramatic thread on Paizo called post all of your characters that were killed by errata here. So again, like, I think most of the changes were done for the right reasons, but if you were someone who was benefiting from an old rule, then I can totally see why you would be upset by it. It's a very difficult call because the most common response is, well, if you liked it the old way, then just house rule it like that in your games. Well,
that's okay in a home game.
I think that's kind of a cop-out. I really don't like that answer, especially when Paizo runs what's arguably the largest organized play system for a tabletop game on the planet. So some things are good, some things I'm not entirely sure. One of the things that I personally didn't like was the Slashing Grace change. On one hand, they changed Slashing Grace so that it works with light weapons in addition to one-handed weapons. That wasn't clear before. But they also kind of killed any dual-wielding builds using Slashing Grace by changing it so that you can't be wielding anything but a buckler in your offhand when you use Slashing Grace. So like I said, in the chat, it's basically swashbuckler only, because the only class that gets compensated for not having either two hands on a weapon or two weapon fighting is the swashbuckler.
Wait, so then
Or
it's
the
not
duelist.
actually off, like it doesn't say in prerequisite that you have to have a level in swashbuckler?
Well, it says you need weapon finesse, and it says you need to pick a light or one-handed slashing weapons. But how it works mechanically is that you're going to be lagging behind if you choose it unless you're a swashbuckler. So it's kind of, I don't want to call it a trap because that's not true, and I hate when people say things are feat taxes or feat traps or whatever, but it's not a strong option unless you're a swashbuckler or another character that has precise strike.
Okay, that's still not as bad as some of the other feats in the feat section that flat out said you had to have a level in this class to take this feat, and it was stuff that was like many classes could benefit from this feat.
Do you have an example? I can't think of any off the top of my head.
Yeah, well, I forget the name of it, but the picture is of the Magus picking up his sword with his foot.
Kip up, yeah.
Yeah, kip up. No, not kip up.
Or the one where you kick your weapon up in your hand,
Yeah,
right?
the one that a Magus can't use.
Yeah, that one is still that one is still restricted, which is a weird one. This is true. I think it could have been overlooked if it wasn't for the fact they had the iconic Magus using it.
Mm-hmm.
But I honestly, there aren't many feats that I can think of that are written in a way after the errata that only one class can really benefit from it. But there are a lot of feats that are like, you're kind of making a bad choice if you do anything with this feat but this, which you could argue is the case with all feats since the ultimate line. But what are you going to do?
So, how are you doing, Alex?
I'm actually doing okay. A product that Anthony and I worked on is coming out in the start of September, and all the subscribers are getting their copies of it now. So I'm like, look at all the things.
Dirty Tactics Toolbook?
Yeah, it's finally coming out.
I am very much looking forward to that one.
Super looking forward
And I was
to
looking
that
forward
one.
to that before I knew you both worked on it.
You know, it's a fun book because we all, like all of the contributing freelancers, we worked very closely together on it. I actually think Anthony was the one who had the least amount on it because of various reasons, but we were all talking back and forth and throwing feat ideas at each other. I don't think I should probably say what Anthony worked on, but his section is one that doesn't really mesh with everyone else's the way that all of ours did, but it's kind of like, oh yeah, you should do that so I can do this, so you can do that, so I can do this. And I think the entire book has a lot of things that not only have been absent from Pathfinder itself, but also are just very helpful when you're building characters in general. I actually, the preview they did on that earlier in the week, I got to see a piece of artwork that goes with something I wrote. I wrote an option that lets Jarell use her cloak like a parachute on the preview blog.
Cool.
So I was like, look, she's using my ability. That's awesome. I'm trying to be vague because it's not my place to announce things. I'm sorry.
Yeah, of course.
Listeners.
No. I wouldn't want to
This
get
is
you in
the
trouble
normal.
just to titillate us.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the big thing that's been going on with me. Anthony and I put out a podcast for our Hell's August special today too. We did a new segment for talking about deities. So good stuff. We did an entire I think it's 30 or 40-minute episode on just Asmodeus. We're talking everything about the Prince of Darkness. It was fun.
Perfect time for it too.
Oh yeah, definitely. So what about you guys? What have you been up to?
Well, you know, podcasting.
You're right.
Oh yeah,
Trying to
just
keep the
podcast.
show to work. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Well, did Ryan? Did you tell all of our listeners about how hard Param worked on keeping the entire coverage going at Gen Con?
I
talk about
told
that?
everyone that we all owe him a thanks for all of the Gen Con coverage.
Let me give you more information then, listeners, because we need more information. I met up with Param on. Gosh, we met up on Thursday in front of the big giant line, right, Param?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So I'm sitting there and I'm very tired. We had just gotten in. I didn't sleep as much as I should have the night before, and we're going over schedules. And I'm like, all right, Param, here's the list of things that I have tickets for. What do you need me to do? And he looks at my list. He goes through them. He's like, I've already got all those things covered. And I'm like, Oh, okay. So yeah, Harem worked his butt off. Like it was crazy.
Yay, Param.
Yeah,
Yes,
it
Param.
was, it was fun.
I
I
appreciate
I
it.
worked harder last year than this year, but last year I just lived. It got to the point that they were just going to let me pitch a tent in the room and just like sort of sleep there because that's where I was. If you go into the seminar room, like the front seat in the right half next to the aisle, so the left seat of the right row in the front has my permanent butt print on it now.
They might have to get a new chair then for next year.
Oh,
Oh, that's a sad thought. I just took all the thunder out of the joke. I'm sorry. That was actually my first Gen Con, believe it or not. It was very interesting. I met a lot of people who knew me from the podcast who were like, "Oh yeah, well you've done this and you've done." I'm like, no, actually, you can't be telling me to go to these places because I've never been there before. I actually ran a game that became very infamous. It's called the Thornkeep Explorers, where I ran it for Owen Casey Stevens, RPG superstar Monica Marlowe, and her husband Andrew Marlowe, Rachel Ventura of Legendary Games, and her husband, brother, and nephew. So we had this massive game going on, and because of a whole bunch of different circumstances, we had 2.5 hours to run the first floor of Thornkeep, and we piled through it and got the first level of Thornkeep done in 2.5 hours.
well, but that's a heck of a group to do it with, man. I can't imagine.
It was fun. Everyone was level 1. For everyone in that group except Rachel, it was their first Pathfinder Society game. Or
Wow.
maybe second, because I think they did a game with Mike Myler earlier. But yeah, it was like beginning Pathfinder Society. It's like, hey, why don't you try surviving Thornkeep? And let me tell you, if there is ever any doubt that Owen Casey Stevens is a crunch master, do not doubt. Like you need to GM for Owen before you realize how amazingly well he knows the rules of the game. Like not even just for his character, just the rules in general. There was this one moment where I don't even remember what rule he referenced, and I was like, "Are you sure that's a rule, Owen?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm sure, but if I'm wrong, what are you going to do about it? I'm Owen Casey Stevens." I was like, you're totally right. And I have about an hour left. So let's go. After the RPG Superstar game, we had a Paizo Freelancer meetup that Monica, Owen, and I and Andrew all had to be at. So there's like half of our group going, we need to go faster, everybody. It was an experience that I will never forget. It was so much fun.
All right, well, Alex, we're going to let you go and we're going to wrap up the
Okay.
show. But thanks for jumping on and clearing up some things about the 9 pages of errata for the
You're
advanced class guide.
You are welcome, and I'm sure I'll be back in October, I hear. Maybe, possibly. Who knows?
I think that you are one of the best people to be covering a book we might be reviewing. I don't know why I'm being coy.
No, we're
I'd love
totally
have you back
going
on,
to be
you
doing
and
that.
Anthony to do another group review of, in this case, Occult Adventures, because I think it went really well with, what book did we do it last time?
We did,
Wasn't the strategy guide?
No, it was Unchained. It was Pathfinder
Yeah, there we
Unchained.
go.
Because we made a big deal about how we were unchaining the podcast by having a 4-man review. I remember that now.
Well, now we're going to be summoning you and Anthony onto the podcast.
Oh,
Excellent. All right, well, I'm going to disappear then before we talk for another hour.
Okay.
Take
All right.
care, gentlemen.
Take it easy.
we'll be right back with the wrap-ups and shout-outs.
Wrap-ups and shout-outs. Wrap-ups and shout-outs. Wrap-ups. Wrap-ups and shout-outs.
And we're back.
Thank you for joining us, everyone, for episode 114 of No Direction, the Pathfinder News, Reviews, and Interviews podcast. Before we go, I do want to bring your attention to something we've talked about, and unfortunately really only alluded to in this episode because of technical issues with the past episode, but it is Helvan August at the NoDirectionPodcast.com. The reason is that we are all fans of Cheliax, and so we are super excited to be kicking off this year of hell in the Adventure Paths line, and we are just throwing as much Cheliax coverage at you as possible. Alex, who was just on, has written several blog posts, as has Anthony, who we were talking about. He's co-host on the Private Sanctuary podcast, and both episodes of the Private Sanctuary podcast that have come out this August have been related to Hell, to Cheliax, or to the Hell of, to the Hell's Rebels or Hell's Vengeance Adventure Paths. And hopefully soon to be up on our website is episode 113, where we talked to James Jacobs and Adam Daigle about those adventure paths, because we are just super excited for them.
Yes.
And I, as much fun as I'm having with Rise of the Rune Lords, I can't wait to be done it so that I could actually play in Hell's Rebels, which hopefully will be around the same time that Hell's Rebels has had all 6 volumes out, and I'm able to play the complete adventure.
Yeah, I know. I mean, like, this is in strong contention for post Wrath of the Righteous for me. I mean, this wanting to, like, solicit another gaming group as if I need another one.
We all need more gaming groups, Param, but we all need to stop time to play in them.
Right, more than 4?
If you can manage it.
Okay. All right. But man, I'm so excited about Hell's Rebels that I'm wanting to read it before I finish reading Occult Adventures, honestly. And I'm liking Occult Adventures, which we'll tell you more about when we actually review it. But I'm really liking it. But man, I've been so waiting for this adventure path specifically. I think everybody has. That's sort of why everybody's loving it. But yeah, hell of an August. And
Hell of an August. So if you are having trouble following all of the Hell of an August action, or if in a couple of months when you sitting down to play either Hell's Rebels or Hell's Vengeance, you want to go back and find all of the Hell of an August coverage, we've created a super page, which is right now stickied on our Facebook group and is, it's easy enough to find on nodirectionpodcast.com. So it's nodirectionpodcast.com/2015/08/Hell of an August super page, and it has links to all of the Hell of an August articles and podcasts. Basically, everything we've posted related to Hell of an August gets linked on the Hell of an August super page. Mm-hmm. So we're going to do the same thing. Actually, I want to use super pages more often going forward. So all of the Gen Con coverage will also get its own super page. We'll probably just start with 2015. I don't see myself going back through the years and making a super page for everything, but definitely when Gen Con 2015 coverage is done, we're going to put it all together nicely on an easy to find super page for you.
And if, for those of you that don't know about our tags on our podcast page, if we have your standard tag cloud, if you just click the Gen Con tag or even just the con tag, you'll get all of our con coverage. It'll pop up on the screen. So that's also an easy way to find con episodes. Also, we have a search function and it works.
And that does remind me that the other day I posted on our Facebook page asking if anyone actually uses our tags, because sometimes that's the longest part about putting a new post, thinking of all the things that I could be tagging in it. And right now the tags, like, we've got millions of things tagged here, most of which are tiny because the tags grow based on how many times it's been tagged. And so like RPG Superstar, PaizoCon, these are big tags, but something like Indiana Jones series is its own tag. I'm not even too sure what'll happen if I click on that. Oh, I get one
episode.
Looks like guidance. Yeah, looks like an iconic design by Alex. Mm-hmm. So yeah, like, do you use the tag cloud? How could we be tagging our things better so that you can find it? This is stuff I would like people to give us feedback on, either on the Facebook page. No, you know what? No, either. Give us feedback for that on the Facebook page, because I am curious if this has been worth our time.
Right.
And apparently there's a Ryan Castell tag in 2 different topics.
No,
I have
we can correct
posted
those.
my name spelt wrong.
Or I have.
It's true. Oh, you know what? Written by Jefferson Thacker.
I'm sorry.
Param, do we have time for a quick story about my Rise of the Rune Lords game?
We do!
Cool. So it's been a slightly deadlier campaign than it usually is, and people that remember when we were talking about the beginning of the game, I had put my foot down that I didn't want a balanced party, because I find balanced parties make the game a little more predictable, and I like things to be a little bit more spontaneous and original every time. And the pillar of the adventuring party that I eventually had to put a ban on because nobody wanted to play it, but there was pressure from the people that like balanced parties to have this pillar filled, was the dedicated healer. So we've been going through Rise of the Rune Lords without a dedicated healer. We lost our Magus. I forget if it's Boone or Rook. And I have so much trouble remembering it because the names are very similar and they both mean something else. So I have very few mnemonic devices I can use to remember which is which, but one of them replaced the other one. The Magus is the one that died in the first adventure. And now we've just lost our second character, Kate, which is Kathy's character, who was a fighter who used a reach weapon and, plucky fighter, but also very polite and very friendly, which is a fun contrast. She died in book 3, The Hook Mountain Horror. And we were looking at the usual options. We were talking about teleporting to, or by we, I mean the party, was talking about teleporting to the nearest town, paying for a resurrection, bringing her back, which is all fine and good. And if people don't like accepting death, then there are ways around it. Mm-hmm. But I was thinking about it, and I was like, you know what? There's this section of this this dungeon that they haven't explored yet, which is literally a dungeon. It is the jailhouse. Mm-hmm. They haven't gone to the jailhouse yet, and I started getting these ideas. What if there's just someone that's trapped in this jail, because otherwise the jail would be vacant? And what if this one person is suddenly haunted by Kate's ghost? And so I got in touch with Kathy, and I was like, we could just bring Kate back, and that's fine, and I would not have any problems. But I've got this one idea. And so Kathy rolled up a spiritualist, and Kathy's phantom is her last character, Kate. And so her new character has all of the information about the adventure up until now, which is great because it means we don't have to summarize things and she doesn't have to play dumb when we talk about things that her other character knew all about. She still gets to use Kate. She gets to try this new occult class, which was perfectly thematic. Like, everything lined up perfectly. And the only thing was, I got the idea Monday morning and we were playing Monday evening, and it's like, as soon as they leave this jailhouse, I don't know if it'll fit in as well, because the idea that she's haunting someone in the same building as she died, like, she's just that committed to the cause. And reading over the spiritualist class, it lined up perfectly. One of the Phantom's motivations lined up perfectly with that cause. And so we played it out as a surprise. A couple of people were witness to the conversation between me and Kathy, but not the whole party was. So when we were suddenly saying, like, oh yeah, there's Kate, but now she's ethereal and blue, and the people that got it were just kind of chuckling to themselves, and the people that didn't were like, what the heck is happening here? What? It was a nice moment, and it was full of the surprises that I like in a role-playing game.
Sounds great.
All right, Param, I think we're ready to wrap up episode 114. What do you think?
I think we're good. All right, guys.
Excellent. Thank you to everyone that joined us for chat. There was a lively chat tonight. Some of it was, some of which we shared on the podcast, some of which we just used to amuse ourselves as we were listening. So, yeah, as always, thanks to our live chat. Thank you for listening to us. We are the No Direction Podcast. I am Ryan Costello.
And I'm Jefferson J. Thacker, also known as Param.
And if you want to find the path, you need no direction.